Bridget Phillipson is Labour's Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury in Brighton at the conference today and joins us now. Good morning to you, Bridget. Thanks so much for joining us. We have to start with those comments of Angela Rayner's. What did you make of what she said?
Look, I understand that passions run high and people can feel strongly about things, but that's personally not the kind of language I tend to use.
Well, should she apologise? Should she apologise?
That's a matter for Angela. I think it's a matter for Angela. You know, I think we've also seen Boris Johnson saying some pretty choice things. He's not reflected and apologised on that. Personally, I wouldn't do it in the first place, but, you know, we're all different.
A bunch of scum is pretty strong. It's something that you probably wouldn't hear from another politician in many ways. I mean, Keir Starmer surely should be speaking to Angela Rayner to tell her to say something that will level that out, no?
I think you might hear people saying similar this morning if they're trying to go and fill up their car at a petrol station. But, you know, as I say, I don't use that kind of language. It's not the language that I would have chosen in the circumstances, but... You know, we're here, there's passionate debate, you know, people express themselves in different ways.
Would you agree that it's already, though, overshadowed the Labour Party conference this weekend? I mean, this is a big weekend for you guys, a big few days for you.
Well, we've got some, great things to say about the direction that we would set for the country, and what Rachel Reeves, our Shadow Chancellor, will be doing today is to be setting out our plan for the economy. And that's how we would tax fairly, we'd spend wisely, and we'd get our economy firing on all cylinders. So we've got, such a great set of policies that will, for the direction of our country, and that's what we'll be talking about here at conference today.
Well, that's what you hope they're talking about. But obviously, what has happened in the last 48 hours is whatever agenda you wanted to be out there and people talking about has been overshadowed completely by not only what Angela Rayner has said, but the response of the leader, her leader, Keir Starmer, who, again, like you, and I don't know if you're all reading off a script saying it's not the language I would have used, but it's more than that. To the British public, we don't expect, or we've got rather used to politicians using this language against each other, when politicians above everybody else should understand that language is important, that we need to moderate behaviour. Angela Rayner herself in the past has said we need to bring kindness back, and yet this happens. And everybody's blaming the media, saying, oh, we're not concentrating on the right sort of message. Of course we're not, because this, frankly, is disturbing to a lot of people, this sort of language from someone like the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party.
I'm not blaming anybody. I mean, I'm happy to answer your questions on this or any topic, but, it's just not how I express myself. It's not the language that I use. It's not how I like to respond to in events like that. But
should she apologise? That's the question.
Angela set out her position. Well, I think Angela's made a position clear. As I say, it's not how I would do things, but, we are talking today, as I say, about lots of challenges that are facing our country right now. So, we're in the position where universal credit is about to be cut, which will mean millions of families across our country.
No, it's not about to be cut. The uplift is about to be taken away. Let's get the language right here. This isn't a cut. This is the removal of something that was brought in to help through the pandemic. Now, people, I mean, the separate argument about how important that £20 a week is, but no, it is not a cut.
I'm not sure that kind of semantics is necessarily the most important thing to people who are facing a big reduction in their living costs, a big increase in their living costs and a big reduction in what they've got coming in. So we can talk semantics, but I think what matters most is the fact that for millions of families across our country, energy costs are going up, the price of the weekly shop's going up. It's pretty hard at the minute to fill up your car with fuel. And at the same time, the government's priority is to take £20 a week off you. Now, that extends to working families, of course, so people who are doing everything that the government is asking of them. And I'm not sure the people I represent are as concerned about whether we describe it as a cut or an uplift, but they are concerned about the impact that it will have on their lives.
What will be put forward to the conference today in terms of personal tax issues? Is Rachel Reeves going to discuss that, or is she just talking about business rates today?
We'll be talking a lot about business rates because we know that the last 18 months have been really tough for our high streets. They've been absolutely central to the pandemic. We know how much people really value having a thriving high street. And what we're suggesting today is that we freeze business rates, that we cut them for smaller firms, but that we completely change the whole system of business taxation in the long run, because our economy's changed and the tax system hasn't kept pace with it. So all of the changes that we've seen towards people buying more online, there isn't a level playing field for our bricks and mortar businesses, family-run firms on the high street, and we think that should be a real priority for the government to get our economy going.
Were you any the wiser watching your leader yesterday on the Andrew Marr show about whether nationalisation of the oil companies is something he's in favour of or not?
I don't think that's our immediate priority. You know, when we're faced with the prospect of people not being able to fill up, when we've also got big problems for families around energy prices, a lot of that will come down to the fact that over the last 10 years, customers have been left exposed because we haven't properly insulated homes. We haven't had a real programme from the government to do that. And we're just far more exposed to those kinds of changes in the energy market. Of course, going back to the discussion we had about universal credit, the single biggest thing the government could do right now would be to not go ahead with that £20 a week cut at a point at which families are facing big increases in their energy bills.
I'm just wondering, if you didn't use the word scum, what word would you use for the Conservative cabinet?
I'm less interested in finding names for them than I am about beating them next time around. I want to see a Labour government transforming our country. I'm not especially concerned about who happens to make up the Tory cabinet on any given day of the week. I just want to focus on improving the life chances of children, young people and families across our country, and that means winning next time and securing a Labour government, and that drives everything I do.
Will that happen if you've got a Labour leader and Labour deputy leader who, it's quite clear, don't get on?
I think we've got a really exciting programme for the direction of our country that is very much in tune with the priorities of the British people, and Rachel Reeves, our Shadow Chancellor, will be saying more today on that. We've got a lot more to say at conference this week. You'll be hearing from Keir Starmer as well, and I think that's really exciting, and it shows that the Labour Party is changing and reaching out to the country once more.
Bridget, what else can we expect today? What else is on the agenda?
So we've also, Rachel Reeves will also be setting out how importantly we think that we should treat taxpayers' money, that every pound should be spent well, and we'll have a real focus on getting value for money because we know how hard people work for their money, and it's really important that government respects that. Whereas during the pandemic, we've seen kind of incredible waste from the government, you know, literally billions of pounds wasted on PPE and on projects that just didn't deliver. And the next Labour government would take that very seriously. We'd set up the Office of Value for Money to make sure that we're not just after the event making changes and improvements, that when the government is spending taxpayers' money, we're spending it to the best possible effect. We've also set out a clear set of rules around how decisions we would take on the economy would be judged and decided, and that means we would be borrowing to invest for the longer term, but we'd be balancing spending on the day-to-day.
OK, well, Bridget, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.